This conference will now be recorded.
So I think we have seen syntaxes to write recipes, right? Recipes. And then as a part of recipes, we are using some resource types. And like, what are the resource types? File, package, and then service. Okay. Now we got some picture about how to write recipes. Fine. Now today we'll move on to cookbooks. Fine. Cookbooks plus run list. And in the meanwhile, while creating cookbooks, we'll also look into some more resource types. Okay, so now firstly, the purpose of cookbook. What is the purpose of creating cookbook? We can create recipes itself. Then why do we need to create cookbooks? What is the reason? To run multiple recipes. Yes. So if you want to run multiple recipes, so we cannot use a single recipe. For example, like we have seen yesterday, we have created some multiple recipes, but we have created them individually. But let's create these kind of recipes in a cookbook so that we can decide so what cookbook and then what recipes you want to execute. For example, I have about 5 cookbooks and every cookbook is having some multiple recipes. Okay, now so I like to run about 5 recipes and then 1 recipe from each cookbook, or else I want to run 10 recipes, 2 recipes from each cookbook, or else I want to run about 13 recipes. These 13 recipes from only 4 cookbooks. Now you can decide it. So whether you want to run 1 recipe, so multiple recipes from 1 cookbook or multiple cookbooks. Fine. So let's see how to create cookbooks first. Fine. Then we'll move on to. So again in the cookbooks, obviously we'll be creating recipes again. Now, but the question here is, where do you create these cookbooks? What is that path? See, there is a standard path. So to create cookbooks, you cannot create cookbooks wherever you like. No, it's not possible. We create cookbooks only in there is a standard path. Only in the standard path we create cookbooks. Okay, fine. What is the standard path? We'll see that now. Okay. Now, so to create cookbooks, make sure you create them under var chef and then cookbooks directory. And here we create cookbooks. And also remember one more important point. We're going to create cookbooks on workstation, plus we're also going to execute them on workstation itself. If you want to create cookbooks or if you want to run cookbooks on workstation, this is the path. Okay. Now, but just say for example, once we have in tomorrow's session, we're going to set up the entire architecture. We're going to set up a server. Also, we're going to set up nodes. Then we're going to create cookbooks. And then, of course, we're going to create the cookbooks only on workstation and then upload the cookbooks onto server. But the question is, when you want to upload the cookbooks onto server, where do you create these cookbooks? There's a different standard path for that. Because at that time, so we are not going to execute or run the cookbooks on workstation. We are going to only upload the cookbooks onto server. Then there's a different path. But if you want to run cookbooks on your workstation itself, then create them under this standard path. But if you want to upload the cookbooks onto server from workstation, there is a different standard path. Okay, is it clear? Fine. Let's create the cookbooks for today in this path, and then we're going to run them. Now, so if you want to run a recipe, what is the command? Chef-apply and the recipe name. But how do you run a cookbook? Then what do we create? What do we need then? What do we need? Run list. We need to create run list. So we're going to create a run list then. We create cookbooks, and then in that cookbook we create recipes. Now, so our part is done. The cookbooks part is done. And what comes next? I want to run some recipes from some cookbooks. Fine. Then what? How do you run them? How do you call those recipes from so and so cookbooks? See, you might be having different cookbooks and then multiple recipes. Then how do you call these recipes from so and so cookbooks? Then comes run list. Are you clear? So what we're going to define in run list? We're going to define in run list saying that, okay, I want to run some recipe from some cookbook. So mention the cookbook name and then recipe name. Just like that, you need to mention every recipe name and then that recipe belongs to so and so cookbook. Okay, is it clear? Now this is what is our requirement for today. Let's see how to create cookbooks and then how to create recipes, and once it is done, we're going to create a run list. Okay, now in the meanwhile, when we create recipes in the cookbooks, we're going to look into some more resource types. Okay, fine. Let's see how to create a cookbook now. So what is the path? Where? Chef. That's your chef directory, chef home directory. Now there you see a directory called cookbooks directory, but by default you don't see this directory. We need to make sure we create this cookbooks directory. Right? Make sure you create the directory, and once the directory is created, and then go to cookbooks, and there we create cookbooks. Fine. Now, so whatever the cookbooks you create under this directory, these all will be considered as cookbooks. Now, but how do you create cookbooks now? So very simple, nothing but you create directories. For example, I'm going to create a cookbook, and the cookbook name is, what shall we name? Test. Okay, test is my cookbook name. Fine. Let's create a directory. It's already there. That's okay. Let's remove that. Now it's been removed. Then I'm going to make a directory called test directory, and this directory will be considered as cookbook. Why? Because the directory has been created under that directory. That is the reason. Make sure you create them under so and so directory. Fine. And then there we have test cookbook, cd test. Now, so we are in cookbook. What is my cookbook name? Test is my cookbook name. Now, so what cookbooks will contain? Cookbook contains recipes. So make a directory. What is the directory name? Recipes. And this directory name is a standard name. Don't rename this directory. The directory name has to be a standard name, which is recipes. For example, I like to rename it to recipe or something else. Can I rename it? No, because it's a standard directory name. See, cookbook name can be anything. What is my cookbook name? Test. You can give also your name. But within the cookbook, make sure you create a directory called recipes directory, which is a standard name. Right? Now, so go to recipes. Now, what is my present working directory? Cookbooks, and cookbook name is test, and there we are in the recipes of test cookbook. Fine. Now, so we know how to make cookbooks, so recipes, right? How to make recipes, we know this. But as of now, look at here. I'm going to make a recipe, and the recipe name is default.rb. That's my recipe name. Okay. Now, why it is default.rb? Why not something else? We'll see. I'll explain it later. That's my recipe name, and we write something, right? Just go with something like file or whatever. We know this. Let's go with something like some file or somewhere in directory 1, and then create some file 123.txt. Fine, and then do and then we know the syntaxes, right? And then content. So hello from test cookbook. Okay, fine. Say test cookbook, and then and default dot rb recipe. Okay, fine. Save it, and then also create another recipe. Let's name it something like httpd service dot rb. Fine, and then this is regarding service and the service name. Fine, and then what is that syntax? Action space colon restart. Fine. So we have two recipes as of now. Okay, we have only two recipes. We'll create them more as of now. So we have only two recipes now. So what next? So we are done with the recipes. We have created a cookbook. We have created recipes. What next? Run list. Fine. Let's go with run list. Now, where do you create a run list? We create run list in Cookbooks home directory. Here we create run list. Fine. Now, so run list, and one more thing, run list has to be in JSON format. Now again, here becomes a different script, which is JSON script. So as of now, we have been writing these scripts, recipes in what format? DSL Ruby format. Now we must write this run list in JSON formats. But do I need to know entire JSON scripts? Don't worry. We need to know some things, some very basic things, like how to make a run list. That's it, nothing else. Fine. Now, so see this. Look at here. We're using DSL Rubies. Also, we're using JSON scripts in a same chef, same tool. But if you go with Ansible, you just don't need to worry about learning other scripts. Just only concentrate on YAML scripts. Okay. So that this is the reason. There are some reasons actually. Also, like we have too many commands in chef. As of now, we have seen only one command, chef-apply, but there are many more commands in chef. Okay, but so that is another reason why do we choose Ansible. Okay, fine. Now let's go with writing a run list. And how do you write a run list? See, run list name can be anything. You can name it anything, whatever you like. Fine. Just something like we have something like my run list.json, some name. It's already there anyway. But let's remove everything. I'm going to remove everything. Fine. So how do you start a run list? So run list has to start with open and then close. Fine. Then here we write double colons run underscore list. Okay. So colon space within that square braces, open and then close. Fine. Now here you start defining your run list. What do you mean by run list? Recipe. So with double colons and then just close it. Fine. Now recipe. So recipe, and we have two recipes, right? What were the recipe names? Default.rb and then service-http.rb. We have two recipes. Now I'm going to call those two recipes. As of now, okay, let's do only one thing. Let's call only one recipe. Okay, I'm going to call, just say service-httpd. Okay, but we don't need this RB. It's not necessary. Okay, but this recipe belongs to which cookbook? Test cookbook. That is the syntax. So is it clear? So mention run underscore list. Okay, and then so within the square braces we just define your recipe, and then which recipe name? Service-httpd, and then that recipe belongs to test cookbook. Fine. Now that's it, nothing else. Fine. Save it. Fine. Now we have a run list ready, and the run list name is my_runlist.json. Now, so let's go and run this run list, execute the run list. Now, what is the command if you want to execute a run list on workstation? So it is chef-solo. Fine, and then your run list name. But what kind of format this is? -j, JSON format. Okay. Now enter. Now from the test cookbook, we'll be having only one recipe executed now. So even though we have two recipes, so we can have only, you can see only one recipe getting executed. So some syntax errors, I think so. Running exceptions and then find. Let's find out where could not find recipe. Okay, I think we have mentioned in different way. Yes. So it says that could not find recipe. What is it correct name? HTTP-service. Okay, fine. HTTP-service. Okay, the recipe name has to be correct. Now let's go with again chef-solo j and then your run list name. Now we're getting some warnings actually. These warnings, so usually we maintain or we run the run list on nodes, but we are running this on workstation. That's a warning. Don't worry about that. No. So there you see, we have resolving cookbook for run list. And what was the cookbook name? Test, and then belongs to. So sorry, HTTP-service belongs to test cookbook. Fine. And then synchronizing cookbooks, and it's all done. And there you can see this. That's my recipe. Fine. And then you see that action service HTTPD restart. Okay. So even though we have two recipes from that cookbook, test cookbook, we are running only one recipe. But how can I run multiple recipes from the same cookbook? Then edit your run list. That's my run list name. Okay. Fine. And then just go with comma. Where do I mention this? Here? Within the braces. Okay, that's somewhat wrong. So after the braces. Fine. After braces, just again go with correct. Same syntax. Recipe. Fine. And then recipe name was default. And then belongs to which cookbook? Test cookbook. So mention the double colons. Fine. But so since the name is default.rb, you don't need to worry about mention that recipe name. We just mention the cookbook name. Okay, or else just look at here. Okay, so what I've done, I've just mentioned only cookbook name. If you just mention the cookbook name, then all the recipes, default.rb or all the recipes, all recipes. Someone said default.rb. Anyone? Actually, it is only default.rb. Fine. Now chef-solo and then Your run list name was my run list.json. So here, what do you say? Which recipe? Only default. Fine. So if you mention only the cookbook name, then only default.rb will be executed, not all the recipes. But if you want to go with multiple recipes, then edit your run list. So we must mention comma recipe and then cookbook name and then recipe name httpd hyphen service. Save it. Then again same command chef hyphen solo and then hyphen j run list name. So whether you want to run one recipe or any number of recipes from the cookbook, every recipe name has to be mentioned within your run list. Yes, recipe names has to be mentioned. So it's not possible to run all the run list. I mean all the recipes. We must mention recipe name belongs to so and so cookbook. Okay, because so there are some cases that we may also have to run multiple recipes belongs to different cookbooks. So it's needed or necessary to mention recipe name plus cookbook name. Right? Now there you can see here two recipes. Fine, we have two recipes. Okay. Now let's do one thing. We just try to modify, or why don't we go for another cookbook? Let's create another cookbook. Fine. I'm going to make another cookbook. We're going to name it as test 1 cookbook. Fine. So that's my second cookbook, which is test 1, and then you can see test 1 cookbook. Fine. CD test 1 cookbook, and then what else? Recipes. So we have recipes now. CD recipes, and next is we create recipes. Okay, and then so vi. Now, is it necessary you must have default RB? It's not needed. Okay, so that's your option. Whether you want to go with default RB or not, that's your option. Because in some cases, so you may have to run the default RB by default in some cookbooks. In that case, write default RB file and then just call it as a default. But if you don't want it, so don't create the default RB. It's not necessary. It's not so needed to have default RB in recipes, I mean in cookbooks also. Fine. But so in Ansible, it's mandatory. Fine. So let's go with, so create a different one and go with like package and then httpd dot rb. Okay, fine. And then okay, why? Okay, let's go with, actually we have seen httpd right yesterday. Let's go with some different package, SSHD package, and then action, let's say install, save it, and also let's rename this. Fine. Okay, and let's go with creating a different recipe, which is some user. And the purpose of this recipe is I like to create a user. and the resource type is user is a resource type. Fine. And then username. What's the username? The users were already created. Those are simple users, so already created in the past. What is that file? etc passwd, right? Let's check it out. If it is there, we just remove them. So we have capital, we have user one, we have test user. Let's go create a user called. Or else why don't we remove that user then? What is the command to remove user? User del or user delete? User del or user remove? User del. Fine, done. Fine, it's been deleted. Okay, let's create a user called capital user. We should have done it from recipe itself. Fine, we can do it from recipe also. Anyway, it's okay. So, and then, so action is not needed because automatically the user will be created, and we must mention password for the user. Okay, mention the password, and you want to go with some home directory. Is it home or home directory? So let me get the attributes. User resource ensure. Just refer these documents. Okay. So we have home. Okay, I was correct. We have home, we have comment, and then we have password, group ID, user IDs. Okay, and don't give user IDs, group IDs, whatever you want. There's a different group range actually for user IDs and then group IDs. There's a range. Okay. Now, as of now, I'm going with only password plus home directory. Fine. So let's go with slash home and then slash. What's the directory? How to get user home directories? What is the name? User home directories. So name user home directory names same as the username always. Remember this. Okay. Where to get user home directories? In slash home. Okay. Now, but let me check it out first. cd slash home. We already have it. Okay. Look at here. We already have it. We remove that actually. Fine. It's been removed. Now we can create them again. Okay. Fine. Save it. Fine. So we have created 2 recipes, and you like to create more recipes, you can go with them. Let's go with vi and then service, so IP tables dot rb. Go with service and the service name, and then action. Just go with stop. Okay. So we have 3 recipes for the time being. Okay. Now what next? What next? Run list. Fine. Let's go with the run list. Fine. So let's use a same run list. Let's use the same run list. If you want, you can go with different run list also. Okay, that all depends actually. For example, so we have about number of cookbooks ready. Fine, and among this number of cookbooks, I have some cookbooks. We'll see that later. But I'm giving kind of example. I have a cookbook. I have about 10 cookbooks. Among these 10 cookbooks, about 5 cookbooks belongs to developer environments, and other 5 cookbooks belongs to test environments. Fine. Then I'm going to create a run list, and then that run list I will be using for only test environments. I'm going to create another run list. We'll be using for dev environment. Or else you want to create kind of a common run list. So that run list you want to execute them on these all machines on different environments. You can also do it. Okay. So that is how you create cookbooks. I mean run list. So always make sure you create run list based upon environments. Also, there are some common recipes or cookbooks which you want to run them on, yes, multiple environments. But as of now, I'm creating only one cookbook, one recipe. So, and here, let's mention so there we go, recipe, and then okay, what else? Cookbook name. What is cookbook name? Test one, and then recipe name. So which recipe? User, and then what else? Comma, recipe, and then test one cookbook, and then which one? What else we have? Service, IP tables. Fine. So let's try these two recipes. Then chef hyphen solo hyphen j, and then run list b. Now we can see different recipes, also different cookbooks. Look at here. Test cookbook, default RB, test cookbook, test APT service, test one cookbook, and then user, and then service IP tables. Okay, right? They can see them all. Totally we have 4 resources. Is the user created? Yes, that was the username. You want to log in as that user? You can go with sudo su, right? Why sudo? Now we are logged in as capital user. Fine, successfully done. Now, so let's again go with the same cookbook. Test one cookbook. Fine. Again recipes. This time I like to go with creating a recipe, and the recipe is regarding just say copy index file dot rb. You remember that copy index file, the index file? Remember that file? Where www and then html. Right? Let's copy them. See, so shall we go with copy? Files. Just create them. Fine. Let's create them. Fine. Let's go with file, and then what is the file path? /var www and then html and then index.html. Just create that file and then do and then end the same thing which we have done yesterday, right? And then the content of the file, mention the content, fine, and the content has to be in HTML format because it's a HTML file. And then go with body. Just mention some tag, h1 tag / h1. Just so hello from test one cookbook. Just save it. Save it. Fine. So we have a new recipe, which is, what's the recipe name? Copy index.rb. Right. And go back to your run list. So vi my run list .json. Fine. And let's go with this. Here add a new recipe, which is recipe, and then test one cookbook, and then what's a recipe name? Recipe name. Copy index. Fine. Save it. So and then chef hyphen solo hyphen j, and then run list name. Now it is successfully created, and then just open browser, refresh, hello from test one cookbook. Okay, and then let's go with, if I run that same run list again, now how about the file? The file shows it's already up to date. Fine. If the file is already up to date, then what we do? We try to delete that file. We delete it first, and then we recreate it. Again, go with writing same, so cookbook but different recipe. Just say delete hyphen index.rb. So writing a different recipe, and the resource type is file, and the file path is, so where, and then www, and then html index.html, and then do and go with, let's go with, so action is delete, and include it. Where do you include it? In your run list. Now open your run list, my run list.json, include this. Recipe, and then test one cookbook, and then delete, save it. But let's do one thing. We delete it first, then create it. Fine. So for that purpose, delete first. Okay. So go with comma, and then mention recipe, and then go with your test one cookbook, and then delete. Okay, save it. Now let's see, chef hyphen apply, and then hyphen j. Yes, solo, right? Yes, solo. So we have syntax error. So could not find recipe, delete for cookbook 1. Was it correct recipe name? No. Delete hyphen index. Right, save it. That was error, right? Could not find. Then again same command. And look at this. See here you see. What is that? Chef client. Now, but this is my workstation, right? How come you see chef client? Should be? See, is it my client? No, it's not my client. It's a workstation. But when you install Chef workstation, also you can see Chef client also will get installed on your Chef DK. That's also included. Because what is the reason? This is the reason. So if you don't have Chef client, so you won't be able to run list, or you won't be able to run any recipes. So we are running a Chef client locally on workstation itself. That is the reason we had some warnings at the time of running a run list. That was a warning, right? Now, but when you pull this run list from a Chef client, you won't be having warnings because you are doing it in a correct way. See, even this is correct way. I'm not saying this is wrong, but we have some warnings. But usually we go with pulling the recipes. Pulling your running a run list on Chef client. Nodes. Okay, right. So it's all done successfully. Okay, it's all good. But let's try something different. Okay, you can see them, right? You can see them. So let's go with same test 1 cookbook. Okay, go with same test 1 cookbook. We are in there. Actually, we have a tab open already. That's my test 1 cookbook. Fine. In this cookbook, let's write a different recipe, and the recipe name is, let's name it as, just say hello.rb file. And the purpose of this recipe is to create a file in directory 1, and the file name is hello.html. Okay, and then do n, and then the content of the file. So same content. Now look at the content. Whatever the content we are using for index.html file, I am using the same content for hello.html file. Okay. So body, and then close it. Close it, and then the tag. Let's use h1 tag. H1 tag. Fine. And then just mention here hello from, what is the text? Hello from test 1 cookbook. Test 1 cookbook, and then save it. Okay. Now if you save it, we know the output. So what is the output again? So hello.html will be created under directory 1. Okay, let me show you that anyway. Let's go with recipe, and the recipe name, test 1 cookbook, and then hello. Fine, save it, and then chef hyphen solo -j and then run list name. So we are using the same content for two different files. One is index.html file, other one is hello.html file. So both are, we are using the same content for both files. Now, so the content is very small content. It's a very little content we have. But what, for example, I'm using a kind of a lengthy content, about 50 or 100 lines for these two same files, hello.html file plus index.html file. I'm going to use the same content for both files. So what we do, go to index.rb file in your recipe, and the content, write all the content. Right? Also go with second recipe. What is the second recipe? hello.rb file, and go with this again. Mention the content of all the 15 lines. So we must mention the content of these two files, even if it's the same content. So we must mention the content. But is there any alternate? So I want to create kind of a template for this content. So I created a template. What do you mean by template? In the template, I just define all the content. And whenever I want to call that template in my recipe, so in my recipe, I want to call that template as a content. I'm going to call that template. In the template, what we have? Content. So that means I can call that same template in any number of recipes. So we have two recipes. One is hello.rb, other one is index.rb. So I'm going to call that template, okay, in these two files. Now in the template, what we have? The content. Okay, is it clear? Fine. Let's try that. Now understand the purpose of template now. Template will be having your all content ready. Whenever you want it, you just call that content. Fine. Now, so let's talk about templates. Fine. Now, so where do we create templates, or how do we create a template? We create templates. First of all, make sure you create a directory called mkdir templates directory. Create templates directory. There we have templates, cd templates. Now we are in templates directory of the same cookbook. Look at here, we are in the still in the same cookbook, but different directory, which is templates directory. Now, so create a template and just say my template, my hyphen template. That's my template name, and then the type of the file has to be ERB. So extended Ruby. Fine. So enter. Fine. And then now what do you mention in template? Content. So what was the content? Some content, right? Just don't worry about that content. Look at the content. It's just a content. What are the content you want? Mention that content. Hello from, okay, so hello from test 1 cookbook, and then template. Okay, fine, close it. Save it. Okay, now what is my template name? My template.erb. Okay, that's my template. Now, how are you going to call them, or where are you going to call it? In run list. Why run list? Run list. What do you mention in run list? Then where do you use this template? So you have content defined in the template. Now where do you call that template? Recipes. Correct. Right? Go with recipes. and then which recipe? hello.rb. Fine. No. So do I need to mention the content again? No, it is already been defined. So remove that. Then what do I mention? So I mention source. Fine. Source means, what do you mean by source? Template name. Okay. My hyphen template dot erb. Okay. And just remove this resource type, file resource type. Remove it. It is not file resource type anymore. It will be template. So we have a new resource type, which is template resource type. Okay, are we clear? Fine. Now your hello.html file will be created with help of as a template, and in template you may have multiple files, multiple templates. I mean, which template? Mention the template name as a source. Okay, save it. And where else? Also copy next.html file and use the same. And what's the resource type now? Template resource type. Yes. See, we are making recipes simple. Okay. No need to worry about mentioning all the content in my recipes. Okay. And then what else? Source. Fine. And remove this content. We don't need this content anymore. Mention as source. Fine. What's your source file name? I mean, template name was? Yes. So my template, my FN template. Dot erb. Fine. Save it. Okay. Now, first of all, let's open my browser first. In this browser, that's my local HTML file. Also, try to open so this is my not test file. What is the file name? Hello, right? Hello.html file, right? Fine. So look at this. We have two files. One is index.html file. Other one was hello.html file. We have two files, and the two files are using the same content. Now let's execute your run list. Once you execute your run list, let's come back and see whether these two files will be having the same template or not. Okay, fine. Let's do it. Let's go with chef hyphen solo funj my run list.json. Enter. So it's all success. There you can see. See, so far we have seen file resource type, but we have a new resource type, which is template. And there also we have template. Okay, fine. And now, very simple. Check your index.html file, localhost file. Yes. So that's one template. Also, hello.html file. Refresh. Yes, and template. Fine. Understand the purpose of template now? So very simple. Just if you have some lengthy contents in your recipes, don't worry about mentioning the lengthy content of your files. Okay, create a template and call those templates. Fine. So just try it out from your side also. So this is important template resource type. Okay. and try to create multiple template types. You can go with this, try to practice these scenarios for today. So just create multiple templates. Okay, and then call them. And before that, also make sure just create multiple run list. Multiple run list. Fine. Just go with always. So go with multiple run list and then multiple templates. Just try them out. Okay. So now since we got some idea about templates and the resource types, all these things. Now tomorrow we're going to set up your chef architecture. We're going to set up nodes. We're going to set up server also. Then again we'll try to create cookbooks, recipes, again run list. Are we clear? Fine. Yes. So tomorrow is kind of very important session. So don't try to miss it. Fine. It's very important session because we're going to set up chef architecture itself. Fine. Yeah. So yeah. Thank you. Any questions?